Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Planning and Regulation Committee at the Lincolnshire County Council. It's 31st of July 2023, 10:30 a.m. I'm Councillor Ian Fleetwood, your chairman. We do have one or two apologies. We've had the fire alarm already, so if you hear a fire alarm, please exit the building to the rear of me through these doors and congregate at the front of county offices, where we'll hopefully account for everybody. As everyone knows, there's water at the back of the room should you wish for it. I think otherwise we are not expecting any other issues, so I will move on to the agenda. Item 1 is apologies replacement members. I believe you have one or two.
Thank you, Chairman. We have apologies from Councillors Vernon, Hall and Pepper.
Thank you very much. Item 2 is declarations of members' interest. Anybody have any declarations to make? Councillor Smith, please.
Chairman, it may not be an interest, but just in the interest of full disclosure, I was in the committee where the previous stage regards to the County Matters application was discussed. This wasn't on planning grounds, this was purely on the site of the dwelling and to proceed with the project.
Okay, thank you very much. Minutes of the previous meeting. Meeting was held on 3rd of July, previously been circulated. I'm quite happy to propose them. Do I have a seconder from somewhere? Thank you, Councillor Ashley Morris. There's a hands up. Is there any items that need to be addressed? So therefore, everyone's happy with those minutes. I'll therefore say everybody in favour, please show. Excellent. So that is clearly carried. I'll sign those in a moment. Which moves me on to traffic items. 4.1, Skegness Scarborough Avenue Car Park. Proposed amendments of LCC Off-Street Parking Order 2021. We've got Mick Phoenix here, I believe, who's going to tell us all the joys of Skegness. So tell us how successful everything is and how well motivated people are to park. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's a very popular place, Skegness. I know it well myself. I live not that far from it. And yes, you can have some fun trying to get in and out some days. The Scarborough Avenue car park used to be an East Lindsey District Council asset. But about 3 years ago, they moved it across and Skegness Town Council took charge of it. It's a fairly standard car park, pay and display with a machine on it. The council itself looks after the machine, it looks after its cash collection, and it looks after the maintenance of the car park, including the signage. Under the arrangement they had with East Lindsey, the car park remained within the East Lindsey off-street parking order, and East Lindsey carried out the necessary patrolling and enforcement on the car park on Skegness Town Council's behalf. This is because the powers under civil parking enforcement cannot be delegated below district level. So it needs to be either district or county to enforce the car park. About 6 to 8 months ago, Skegness Town Council, I think, made an approach to East Lindsey District Council to vary their parking charges on Scarborough Avenue. I don't know the full details, it's beyond my remit to question East Lindsey, but at the time they decided not to vary their off-street order. And so Skegness Town Council approached the County Council and asked if the car park could be included in our off-street car park order, which was initially set up for the car parks on the East Coast as all part of the Coastal Country Park uplift and offering. The car park can be patrolled and enforced by the County Council if the car park is included in our off-street order. And the car park would be governed by the rules within our off-street order. So things such as disabled parking would remain free, and we would have to publish the tariffs for the parking for the tariffs to be able to be charged on the car park. And it would allow Skegness Town Council to increase their charges so that they can cover the costs of the pay and display machine, the markings, the signage, lighting, various other items. The prices haven't gone up for about 4 years, so they are beginning to lag behind the cost of looking after the car park. And therefore they've asked if we could submit a variation to our off-street order to bring their car park in. Happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So At this point, with traffic items, we don't normally introduce people from away, any organisations to talk to committee. So therefore, I will open it to committee. Would anybody like to speak to the item? Anybody on the East Lindsey situation, or anybody from that part of the world? I'm quite happy for as chairman to propose the report. I see it as being a wholly good and sensible way forwards. So
Happy to second that. Sounds eminently sensible. Thank you.
Okay, so I have it seconded by Councillor Mrs Overton. I will give it just another moment or two, but thank you for presenting the report. It's obviously done so well that the committee don't want to question you. So therefore I'll put it to the vote. All in favour, please show now. Proposed by myself, seconded by Councillor Mrs Overton. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. So that was a nice, easy morning for you. Well, start to the morning. I'm sure you're going to do lots more. I'm not giving you permission to go home at this stage. So there we are. Okay, so therefore I'll move over on to the next part of the committee, which is the planning decisions to be taken, and I'll move you on to item 5.1, which is the planning permission being sought by the County Council to construct the 1 and 2 storey 28 bedroom secure children's home, and this is at Bone Mill Farm, Bone Mill Lane, Sleaford. So I believe it will be Mr McBride that introduces this report.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, councillors. I'll be taking you through the report this morning. So, as the Chairman has just outlined, this is an application by the County Council to construct a 1 and 2 storey 28-bed secure home and associated support accommodation, including administration facilities, kitchen and dining space, education and teaching spaces, sports facilities, including a mugger, and external secure courtyard areas. Support and infrastructure includes a new service road, a car park, a surface water attenuation pond, landscaped areas, renewable energy provision, and battery storage at Bone Mill Farm, Bone Mill Lane, Sleaford. So if we can just have the slides, please. Thanks. So I'll just take you through the PowerPoint presentation. You'll see that most of the slides are actually incorporated into the committee report with explanations as to what they show, but I'll just go through them with you now to give you some background. So we can have the first slide, please. So this shows the location of the application site, just to the east of northeast of Sleaford. You can see on there the A17, and the application site is just to the south of that. Next slide, please. So a little bit more detail. The A17 is at the top of the slide there, and then just below that is the part of the application site. You'll see that, and this will become evident on some of the subsequent slides, that the actual area of Bone Mill Lane, where the application is actually set back a little bit from Bone Mill Lane. So you can see there the access road that goes through the northern part of the land, and then the area which would be occupied by this application is shown sort of 3/4 of the way down. So the first part of it is the actual sort of main buildings, and then in that sort of bottom triangle area is the area which is proposed for solar panels and battery storage, which is part of the renewable energy infrastructure to provide a power source to the development. Next slide, please. So the next series of slides just show the various sort of designs and layout of the proposal, and again they're shown in the report, and also some explanation as to the design and dimensions of the application are in the report. Next slide, please. Again, just showing the site layout, sort of the building layout, sorry. Next slide. Again, a bit more detail. Next one, please. So this slide shows the proposed design. As I say, it's a single and two-storey building, and that's the design of the proposed building. Next slide, please. This slide again just gives you a bit more detail as to how the application of the buildings and the development would sit within the application area. Slide. And this final slide of this sequence just shows the how the building would look once it's been constructed. We'll move on, please. So the next series of slides basically show photographs of the application site and also of the highway leading to the application site. So this first slide just shows the main road where the application would, or Bow Mill Lane, is situated. Next slide, please. And this is the actual the start of Bow Mill Lane off the A17 slip road. Move on, please. Moving down Bow Mill Lane, and you can see there the condition of the highway and the width of the highway as well. Next slide, please. Moving around the corner, so this is getting closer to the railway line, and again just showing the condition of the highway and the extent of it. So this is the level crossing, and you'll see in the report some commentary around the level crossing and some issues that Network Rail have raised, but this is the current crossing point. I don't know whether you can pick up on the photograph, but there is an existing 1 metre wide footpath on the southern side of the railway crossing, which obviously already provides some, I suppose, a facility for pedestrians to walk across the level crossing. Next slide, please. And this, again, looking at the level crossing from the other side, and the footway, as I say, is on the southern side, so it's on the opposite side to the residential building where the footway is already in existence, a 1 metre wide footway. Next slide, please. So this shows the area of the application site. So you recall from the sort of first couple of slides that the application site itself is at the sort of the southern end of the this area of land, but this shows the proposed location of the access onto this particular parcel of land. Next slide, please. And then follows a series of slides showing a bit more detail of the site and surroundings to give you a feeling as to what the site looks like. Next slide, please. So we're moving down the site now. So this is probably at the start of where the proposed buildings would be constructed. And on the opposite side of the railway line, you can see some industrial buildings that are already in existence as part of that industrial estate. So it just gives you a feeling of the location and the existing development that's already in situ. Next slide, please. And this is moving down towards the southern section of the site. Next slide, please. And this is looking from the sort of bottom triangular corner northwards over the parcel land, which obviously includes the application site, and then beyond to the for the land beyond that. And I'll just draw your attention to the line of trees, which marks the eastern boundary of the site, and you'll see some reference to those trees in the main committee report. Next slide, please. Again, see a bit more detail of those trees, and this is looking southwards over the main application site. Next slide, please. Again, just more details showing the northern part of the site. Next slide. And this is the part of Bowmill Lane. So this is beyond where the proposed access is proposed to be situated. And the buildings on the right-hand side of the photograph are part of an operation for agricultural machinery repair and storage. So when I visited the site, the area of land, that grassed area, was full of agricultural machinery, which is connected to that development on the north side of Bowmill Lane. Next slide, please. Again, just looking in the opposite direction, so that's the agricultural machinery storage and repair business, and again just gives you an idea of Bowmill Lane, what it looks like, and its current condition. Next slide, please. Further slides showing the tree boundary from outside the site. This is looking from the east into the site. You can see the screening that affords. And the last couple of slides are just photographs from the industrial estate on the other side of the railway line, just to show you the views from there and the development that's already in existence, and obviously some further industrial units are being constructed as part of that development as well. And then the final slide, please. And then again, just a view across the site from the west. So hopefully that series of slides gives you a bit of context to the application, and I can bring you back to the report. As normal, we set out some background in terms of the planning history of the site, and then the report then provides details of the application in some detail as to the dimensions of the building and things like that. And I won't go through that in detail. I'll take it that you've had an opportunity to see that information, and also the slides that I've just talked through, and the slides that are also in the report as well, the drawings. So I'll move on from that part of the report through the site and surroundings. Pages 26 onwards give a background to the main planning considerations as normal. So picked out the relevant planning context from the National Planning Policy Framework, the first part of that section, and then moves on to policies from the Minerals and Waste Local Plan, and then finally the relevant policies from the Central Lincolnshire Local Plan. So I'll take it that you've seen those, and I won't go through those policies set out in quite a bit of detail. Then moving on to page 32, paragraph 21, sets out the results of the consultation and publicity that's been undertaken as part of the process. You can see there the first response from the local member, Councillor Allen, who has indicated support for the application, and also the Town Council, who also have confirmed their support for the application. I won't go through all of the different responses. I'll just highlight a couple. So obviously the local member and the Town Council. Also draw your attention to the comments from the Highways Officer. It's on page 33 at G, where you see that they have initially requested the resubmission of a drawing referred to on the site plan, which was done, and further to that have raised no objections subject to the incorporation of the recommended conditions that they've suggested being imposed on any planning permission granted. So make reference to that. And then going over the page, you'll see page 34 at L, that Network Rail, who initially had raised no objection to the application, on the receipt of further drawings as part of that consultation, have now raised a objection to the proposed, well, largely to the proposed amendment, on the basis that this is against Network Rail's policy of introducing new level crossings on the operational infrastructure due to the inherent safety issue that they represent. That's picked up in the conclusion section, which I'll get to shortly. So those are the main sort of consultation responses that I wanted to draw your attention to. Paragraph 22 just sets out a couple of comments that we've received from local residents. No great concern that have been raised by the local residents. The ones that are just set out there for you, and I don't think there's any need for any further explanation for those. And then below that, you'll see the comments from the North Castilian District Council, which are quite detailed in their response. But again, I won't go through those in detail, but you'll see that their sort of overall conclusion is that they don't raise any objection to the application, but obviously draw issues that they asked are drawn to the committee's attention, which obviously we've included in the committee report and brought those to your attention. So moving on to page 37, the conclusions, as normal, that you're familiar with. We've identified the main sort of planning issues that are associated with this proposal, set out the relevant planning policies that those issues need to be addressed against, and then identified or done an assessment as to whether the application is in accordance or not to those policies. And as you work your way through the various issues that we've identified, you can see that largely the application is in accordance with the relevant policies and has addressed the issues that have been raised through the consultation. Just a couple to highlight to you. There was a little bit of dialogue and discussion around the location of the application site, given that it's identified as industrial development on the Central Lincolnshire local plan, and whether a secure school would compromise that industrial location designation. But as you can see in the report, we've concluded that we don't feel that there is any conflict with that policy designation, and that's also been confirmed by the District Council, given that the development in itself will generate a significant number of jobs, which is set out in the report. So we don't feel there's any compromising of that industrial designation from the Central Lincolnshire local plan. So this highlighted that part of the conclusions to you. I think the only other one that I really wanted to draw to your attention is the section on highways, transport and highways, at top of page 52. And you'll see in the report that there has been some discussion about the highway improvements that are needed to Bowmill Lane to make this development acceptable. And initially, as officers, we proposed that that would be dealt with by what is known as a Grampian condition, in that the highway improvements would be needed to be undertaken before any development on the site itself takes place. However, on reflection and since the preparation of the report, I've looked into that condition a bit further and have come to the conclusion that it doesn't need to be a full pre-occupation condition in terms of the highway improvements. So in the update that was circulated on Friday, you'll have seen that the proposal now is for the highway works are addressed via two conditions, one prior to development and the second condition prior to occupation, which I think does provide some flexibility to make sure that the improvements to Bowmill Lane to make it safe for the construction traffic to visit the site can be achieved before development commences, but the main highway improvements for the operational phase of the development are not required to be completed until prior to the building being occupied. So that provides some sort of flexibility for the development, and I think that meets the required tests for planning conditions. So I just wanted to highlight that change to you. That's a change from the that's set out in the committee report. And then moving on to the recommendation itself on page 53, I think it is. It's my text on my page has been sort of a bit overwritten, but it's I think it's 59, yeah, I couldn't read the number at the bottom yet. 59, thank you. So the recommendation has also been slightly changed in that so we've now received the unilateral undertaking, so that has been completed, so it doesn't now need to be, the recommendation doesn't need now to refer to the completion of that unilateral undertaking. That was completed last week. So the recommendation is that planning permission be granted subject to the conditions set out in the report and subject to the changes that were identified in the update on Friday. So that means that we have a new condition 3 in relation to the construction management, environmental management plan. Also, condition 4 is now changed to the condition 4 in the update, and also we have a new condition 5, again, which was set out in the update. And then moving on, the only other change to the conditions that I want to draw your attention to is, at the moment, as it's currently worded in the committee report, condition 8, but obviously with the additional condition, this will now become condition 9. But the second part of that condition, so the bit at the bottom of the page which refers to the approved landscape and biodiversity game plan, shall be implemented in full in the first available planting season following the occupation of a building. So that provides some, again, a bit of flexibility that the actual planting doesn't have to be undertaken until the building has been finished and occupied, again, to make sure that the landscaping works aren't potentially compromised by construction works that still might be ongoing. So with that further addition, the recommendation is that planning permission be granted subject to the conditions in the report and those amendments I've just drawn to your attention.
Well, thank you very much for that intricate introduction to the report. Obviously the members, I'm assuming all members have read the update, but there are, as Mr McBride's alluded to, amended conditions 3, 4, 5 and 8 will now become 9 because of the introduction of the extra condition. So that's what we will be voting on in a small while. Now, Thomas, I don't know, I haven't got a list of speakers. I don't know if anybody has registered to speak, but I do see Councillor Rowe is here. I don't know if he wants to make comment, or indeed if there's any officers from LCC who are registered.
Thank you, Chairman. We have an officer here to speak as the applicant.
Thank you. So, we'll allow you a period of time to talk to the committee. There may well be 1 or 2 questions raised afterwards, depending upon how the committee want to go. Now, remind me, at County Council, it is 5 minutes to talk to committee.
3. I
Three.
believe.
I'm getting my numbers wrong. I chaired too many meetings in too many places. It's 3 minutes here, but inevitably, because we do allow cross-examination, it may well extend a little longer depending upon how the committee feels. So 3 minutes is the time allotted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Matthew Stapleton. I'm Senior Project Manager within LCC's Corporate Property team. I'm leading the project for the Children's Home. Lincolnshire County Council has been running a highly successful 12-bedded secure children's home in Sleaford since 1997, and the current facility is rated as good in all areas by Ofsted. The service has regularly received positive feedback from Ofsted and national recognition in the sector, but it's currently at 100% capacity, and the building from 1997 is no longer able to provide the best care for the children placed there. There is a national shortage of accommodation, and across the country as of the 27th of July there are currently over 70 children awaiting a secure placement. And DfE are committed to addressing this efficiency issue with a new capital build programme, and this building, which will be named Millennium Lodge, forms part of that programme, which will replace the existing Sleaford Secure unit with a larger state-of-the-art facility that will be a pathfinder in both its design and the care the children will receive. The building is innovative and draws from best practice in the sector both nationally and across Europe. It's been designed to offer 5 distinct homes, which you will have seen from the slides, to give a sense of belonging to the children living there. It will also house educational and health areas, all staffed by dedicated professionals who will support the children and help them make the most of their time there. A key element of the building is it's being designed to be net zero in terms of operation and carbon footprint, linking into LCC's green agenda. This will ensure it operates almost entirely off-grid, providing much of the electricity it needs to operate throughout the year and storing surplus in batteries for later use. In terms of economic value, the new building will support 65 existing jobs, which might have been lost if the current unit cannot keep operating, and it will potentially create over 100 new jobs in the long term. This is obviously in addition to the jobs supported during construction and the spend that will happen within the local area. Whilst the site's on the edge of Sleaford, it is still within walking distance of the town centre for visitors, and it's easily accessible by both road and rail. Millennium Lodge has the opportunity to provide children from Lincolnshire and beyond a safe, secure environment, and to provide LCC with a flagship building which will provide care for some of the most vulnerable children for years to come. I therefore urge the committee to support this scheme and to approve the application that's laid before them today. Thank you.
Thank you. That was brief and concise and 2 minutes 24. So well done. Now, committee, any questions of the officer? Unbelievably, you've got a nice easy ride this morning. Okay, well, thank you very much. So therefore, I'll allow you to retire and I'll open it to committee to comment with regard to the application. Now, who would like to be first? Councillor Ashton, please, followed by Councillor Smith.
Thank you. A very interesting report and very comprehensively delivered, for which I'm particularly grateful. It feels to be a good application, and practically all of the issues that have been raised or could have been raised have been incredibly well addressed. I mean, in terms of it being a otherwise industrial location, looking at the map, it feels sufficiently isolated from any industrial estate by the railway line and the road. It sort of feels to be quite a good location where it is. I'm continue to be perplexed by Network Rail's ludicrous policy on level crossings. I successfully went over 2 on my way to this meeting, and I'm here to tell the tale. I find it absolutely bizarre that they maintain an objection to new ones on the ground that they are so dangerous, despite having many, many, many thousands of these things littered the length and the breadth of the country. If they are that dangerous, that any new or additional level crossing should not be allowed, then perhaps they need to revisit the ones that they currently own. I am assuming from the discussion and from the report that our highways condition will pick up and address those concerns of Network Rail in and amongst what we're doing. And I'm assuming what they're objecting to is effectively we're putting pedestrians over a level crossing that exists for traffic use, rather than segregated pedestrians. But notwithstanding that, I'm pleased that we've picked those points up. I'm very happy to move the paper, Mr. Chairman, with the conditions modified as listed. Thank you.
Thank you. I will just go back to Mr McBride and comment with regard to an answer on the pedestrian crossing the railway line you've alluded to.
Yeah, I mean, there will be continued dialogue with Network Rail. I suppose it might not have been that clear on the photographs, but there is already an existing footway, a 1 metre footway that already exists on the level crossing. So I suppose it seems that Network Rail have got concerns about extending that to a 3 metre wide footpath, and that discussion will continue. But I'm sure that we can, between Network Rail, the applicant, and our highways colleagues, will come up with a solution that hopefully meets everyone's requirements. But I don't think it's a sort of showstopper in terms of preventing the development from proceeding.
I don't regard it as a deal breaker either. Okay, so Councillor Ashton, please.
Yes, thank you for that. That's very helpful. I just think they're being utterly ridiculous.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Smith next, please.
Thank you, Chairman. With regard to point 41 in the report, which is at the bottom of page 40, could officers confirm that we are not at risk of, shall I say, setting a precedent around the use of employment site designated land for energy infrastructure, by which I refer to the solar panels? I appreciate in this case it's being used for a very specific purpose, but I want to make sure, as planning's quasi judicial, we are not at risk of setting any precedents that could later be used for any future applications. And secondly, what would be the impact if the condition around the ground floor windows were to be challenged and potentially lost, for example, around them being non-opening? What would be the impact around noise and the acceptability of the development should that condition sought to be changed by another applicant in future? And finally, Chairman, I find, much as Councillor Ashton said, the decision by Network Rail quite ludicrous, actually, and if all they're objecting to is a wider footway, I found that very counterintuitive, for surely the wider the footway, the safer the footway is actually to walk over.
Yeah, just picking up those comments in terms of the energy question. I suppose with the Central Lincolnshire local plan, with its ambitions to be green in terms of the sort of policies that are contained in that plan, there is clearly going to be instances where developments are going to have to provide renewable energy to meet some of those ambitions. So I feel that in this situation where the renewable energy is being proposed in connection with a proposed development to help it meet some of those policy requirements, I think that is a completely different sort of scenario to a sort of a standalone application for, say, solar development or a wind turbine, or a wind farm on industrial land. And I think then there would be clear sort of conflicts with the policies. But in this instance, because it is necessary or helps to ensure the development is net zero, then I don't think that it will set a future precedent for potentially a solar developer to come and say, well, we want to put 10 hectares of solar panels on an industrial land because of this decision. So I don't think that that is something that it doesn't create that sort of that precedent. In terms of the window opening, I suppose the application has been assessed on the basis that the windows are closed. If an alternative came forward to look at potentially opening those windows, or an amendment to that condition was brought forward, then obviously we would need further evidence to see what the implications of that would be and whether there would be any sort of detriment or to I suppose the occupants of the building in terms of potential disturbance. So it is obviously something that could be brought forward, and we'd have to look at the evidence to see whether that was acceptable or not. Sorry, was there a third point?
No, there was no third point. It was a comment, but I'm more than happy with the amended conditions, Chairman, to second the paper as I believe it's been proposed by Councillor Ashton.
Councillor Mrs Overton, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I would also be happy to support this. On North Kesteven, we've had applications on industrial land for things like a dentist or whatever, and that's been declined. But I do see the point that's been made that this does actually increase employment, and therefore it would be a reasonable use of the land. I think also on the point about solar panels on industrial land, I feel that solar panels are quite industrial. So for me, having industrial looking objects on industrial land actually makes sense. What we do object to what we all object to, because it's the policy, is not to build solar panels on good agricultural land. This is currently industrial land, and I think therefore actually that aspect for me is not a problem. Looking at the overall site, I hope they change the name. I don't think if I was a child in care going into secure unit, I'd like to go and live in Bone Mill Lane. I really hope they change the name of that. And I think it's that's not a planning issue, of course, but I just thought I'd take the chance to say it. I think also in planning terms, we have looked quite carefully at the industrial land that's available in North Kesteven, and it has been very carefully calculated, and we're not undersupplied. So the pressure is not so great in this, and so I would be happy with this use of this land. It's often hard to find a good place for a secure children's unit, and I think this one is a good place, and it should be a safe and enjoyable place to live. I think the point about Network Rail, I'm glad you clarified that this is not actually a new crossing. It's perhaps an increased use of a crossing and making it wider. So really, that's not a great deal, not a big issue. Like others have said, I think that's not a deal breaker. So I'm very happy to strongly support this application in North Kesteven. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think there's anything for the officers to come back on there. Councillor Carrington, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yeah, we're very proud in this council of the work we do with children, and indeed we have been given awards for the work that we do with children's services, and it's been marked very highly by independent assessors. I think this application reminds us that we are not just dealing with the regular run-of-the-mill of schools. Sometimes we are dealing very necessarily with young people who are in difficulties, whose lives have gone wrong, who are troubled in many ways. And this application responds to that, not only in terms of the maintaining of public safety, but also in terms of helping these kids get their lives back on track. And it is absolutely right that we have the required number of places for children like this, but also that we provide a quality and caring environment where we can, as I say, get lives back on track, which otherwise might go further awry. It's a vital commitment, and it's what I think we should be very proud of. Colleagues have mentioned the location. It seems to me that we need to remember that this is not designated as industrial, in quotes, in the Central Links local plan. It's designated as employment land. And I think the comment that Mr. McBride made was particularly helpful, that in addition to the current number of jobs which will be protected, as the scheme develops, anything up to 100 further jobs may be created. That is a further reason for supporting the scheme, in my view. A couple of questions, though, particularly on the conditions. As currently set out in the report, there is a reference with biodiversity net gain to using metric 3.1. We now have metric 4. I'm assuming, and perhaps Mr. Wright could confirm, that we're using 3.1 simply because this scheme has taken a great deal of time to get to where it is, and the regulations allow us to continue work with 3.1. And secondly, on condition 18, I don't think that number has changed in the existing report, which deals with the net zero requirements of the Central Links local plan. Could you confirm, please, that if the details of condition 18 are followed, then this scheme will meet carbon net zero. The final comment I'd make on that was that colleagues should remember two things. Firstly, everywhere within the Central Links local plan area, not just in North Kesteven, but also in the City of Lincoln and in West Lindsey, that is now covered by the plan which came into force at the very end of April. It isn't an either or, it is a mandatory. So we will be seeing, be it solar panels, be it other forms of microgeneration wherever possible, in developments of a commercial nature, in developments of an institutional nature, and in housing developments. And for those who have a problem with the look of solar panels, that is a vital form, whether we're talking about houses or we're talking about office buildings or we're talking in this case about a school, of helping us achieve net zero and a secure energy supply. So it may be new to people, but that is the plan. And the second thing I'd remind people of, that this council, Lincolnshire County Council, is a partner to that central Lincolnshire local plan. But if Mr. McBride could just answer those two questions, I should be most grateful. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Carrington, for those comments. Yeah, in terms of the biodiversity, the work for this, in terms of doing the surveys and things like that, started in spring 2022. So I think that's the reason why we're working to that metric, and I don't think there's any particular sort of, I suppose, harm or problem with how that condition has been set out with the reference to metric 3.1. So hopefully that's acceptable. In terms of condition 18, there has been quite a lot of dialogue with North Kesteven's planning officer regarding what needs to be done to meet the sort of the net zero requirements, and I think we're confident that with the measures that have been put forward, then that ambition will be achieved.
Chairman, I'm grateful to Ms McBride. Thank you for that, and like other colleagues in the room, I strongly support the proposal that we've had.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else wishing to speak, but I think the conversation, the debate so far has been mainly around ecology, but I'm very pleased that Councillor Carrington, you did pick up on the young people, and it's giving the people of Lincolnshire the opportunity to have an environment which will help them to prosper. And I think that's really not quite written within the report so fully, but it was alluded to by the officer, it's been alluded to by Councillor Carrington, and it is the real issue behind all of this, that we do need to give our young people an opportunity to move forward and to flourish as best as they are able. Some people are faster than others, have more opportunity than others to learn, but we should give each child every opportunity we can to move forwards. Having said that, though, I'm now going to move forward to a vote proposed by Councillor Ashton, seconded by Councillor Smith, that the report with the amended conditions of 3, 4 and 5, and that now condition 8 has become condition 9, as alluded to by Mr McBride earlier on, so that is what you'll be voted on. If you're in favour of that, please show now. And that, folks, is unanimous, and thank you for that. I will say, anybody against, any abstentions? Seeing none, that one is very, very clearly carried, and I'm very pleased about that. I don't have anything else printed on my agenda, so I'd just like to thank you all for attending. I hope it's a fine day in Lincolnshire, and I mean, let's face it, it's July, I can't promise you anything, and just wish you all a safe journey home. So enjoy your day and see you soon. Thank you.